A ship must survive not for decades, but for 1,000 years. This is the staggering reality of interstellar Ark design, an engineering challenge that pushes the very limits of human ingenuity. By the end of this exploration, you will understand the radical technologies that could transform humanity into an interstellar species. How do you build a society that remains stable for generations within a metal hull? What kind of engine can burn steadily for centuries? The answers lie in vessels where every system is engineered for eternity, from self-healing hulls to immortal artificial minds. What does it truly take to build a civilization meant for the void? A 1,000-year journey is not a single mission but a chain of civilization. The engineers who seal the airlock will never feel the alien sun on their faces. Their children will not. Even their grandchildren will live and die within the ship's metal walls, knowing only the steady hum of its systems and the unchanging stars outside their viewports. This is the first and most profound challenge. You are not building a ship for a crew, you are building a home for a society that does not yet exist. Every bolt, every wire, every line of code must serve not just the first generation, but the 40th. Social stability becomes as critical as structural integrity. How do you prevent a society from collapsing into chaos or forgetting its ultimate purpose over 30 generations? The ship's culture, its laws, its very reason for being must be woven into its architecture, as fundamental as the hull plating. This vessel cannot simply be a machine. It must become a world, a tiny, fragile cradle of life and memory hurling itself across an ocean of nothing. Every design choice, from the power source to the water recyclers, is filtered through this ultimate question. How do you build something meant to outlive empires? This philosophy of excess begins with a simple, terrifying truth. Nothing built by human hands lasts forever. Every component has a finite lifespan, a statistical probability of failure, so you build not for perfection but for resilience. Redundancy is not an extra feature, it is the core design. Think of it as a ship that carries its own immune system, a deeply layered defense against the creeping decay of deep time. A single water purifier is a point of failure. 3 purifiers, each using a different method of filtration, are a system that can self-repair by switching to a healthy backup. Even if 2 fail centuries apart, the third maintains the flow of clean water. This principle extends to every heartbeat of the vessel. The main power source could be a compact fusion reactor, but what if its complex magnetic containment fails after 500 years? The ship must have a secondary source, perhaps immense banks of batteries charged by starlight on vast, unfolding solar sails, and if those sails are torn by micrometeoroids. A third system, like radioisotope thermoelectric generators, provides a slow, steady trickle of power for centuries, enough to keep the lights on and the computers dreaming. This is not merely having a plan B, it is having a plan C, D, and E, each independent and isolated, so that a cascading failure in one system cannot jump to another. The ship's brain, the computer network guiding it, cannot be a single entity. It must be a chorus of minds, a distributed network where multiple artificial intelligences cross-check each other's calculations and assume control if one begins to falter. They are the immortal guardians of a mission whose architects are long since dust. This layered safety net is the only way to cheat time itself, creating a vessel that is not a single machine, but a living ecosystem of machines, all working in concert to ensure that one tiny, random crack never becomes a death sentence for an entire civilization. The ship's immune system of redundancy is only the beginning. Its true heartbeat is a closed, self-sustaining pulse of life. Picture a perfectly balanced aquarium that has thrived for decades without any outside help. Now scale that delicate equilibrium to a city-sized vessel sailing through the void. This is the second foundational principle, a closed-loop ecological life support system. It is not an option, it is an absolute requirement for survival. The ship must recycle every single drop of water, every molecule of oxygen, and every scrap of nutrient with a level of efficiency that borders on perfection. There are no resupply missions, no planets to stop at for air and water. The only resources available are those sealed inside the hull at the beginning of the journey. This creates a profound biological challenge. How do you build an ecosystem that can endure for 1,000 years without collapsing? Advanced bioreactors would work like synthetic stomachs, breaking down all human and plant waste into its basic chemical components. These nutrients would then feed vast hydroponic farms and algal cultivators, which in turn produce food for the crew and, just as critically, regenerate breathable air by consuming carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen. This biosphere must be incredibly robust, designed to withstand minor extinctions and population crashes among its plant and microbial life without triggering a total system failure. It needs built-in diversity and redundancy, just like the ship's mechanical systems. A single type of food crop is a vulnerability. Dozens of different crops, along with fast-growing algae, create a safety net. This living engine transforms the vessel from a mere machine into a breathing world, a tiny, fragile Earth sailing among the stars. Mastering this intricate dance of life and chemistry, this total self-sufficiency, is what ultimately separates a mere spaceship from a true interstellar ark, a world unto itself carrying the future of a species. But this living world, this breathing bubble of life, needs a skin. The ship's hull is its first and most constant line of defense, facing a relentless assault not from enemies, but from time and the sheer emptiness of space itself. This is not a simple metal shell. It is a dynamic, active barrier engineered to remain intact long after its designers are dust. For 1,000 years, it will face a silent, invisible hailstorm. Micrometeoroids, tiny specks of rock and ice, will strike at speeds faster than a bullet, each impact a potential crack that could begin a slow, fatal leak. Cosmic radiation, a constant sleet of high-energy particles, bombards the hull, subtly weakening its molecular structure over centuries. Then there is the interstellar dust, a fine mist that slowly, inexorably sandblasts the surface. To survive this, the hull cannot be a single layer. It must be a complex, multi-layered shield. Imagine an onion, but one designed by the most paranoid engineers in history. The outermost layer might be a sacrificial ablative shield, a material designed to erode deliberately, taking the brunt of the impacts and radiation year after year, century after century, slowly wearing away to protect the layers beneath. Beneath that, you would find a core of self-healing materials. These are not science fiction. Think of them as metals or composites embedded with millions of microscopic capsules, like tiny bubbles filled with a liquid healing agent. When a crack forms, these capsules rupture, releasing their payload to seal the breach, a constant, automated process of regeneration. Some designs even propose a forward-facing ice shield, a massive block of frozen water several meters thick. This serves a dual purpose, absorbing the energy of impacts with incredible efficiency, while also providing a superb barrier against cosmic radiation. The water lost to minor impacts could even be replenished from the ship's internal reserves, a small price to pay for protection. This hull is more than just a wall. It is the guardian of a civilization's future, a shield against the universe's profound indifference, ensuring the fragile, breathing world within remains safe in the endless night. Yet this armored world must also move. The ship's journey is defined not by a sudden leap, but by an unyielding, patient push. For a 1,000-year voyage, the violent, explosive burn of a chemical rocket is useless, a brief firecracker in an endless night. What you need is a force as persistent as time itself, a gentle but unceasing acceleration that builds month after month, year after year, until the vessel is gliding at a breathtaking fraction of light speed. This demands an engine of a different nature altogether. One of the most promising designs is the nuclear fusion rocket. Think of it as capturing a tiny, controlled star in a magnetic bottle. This star heats a propellant like hydrogen into a superheated plasma, a torrent of energy that is then funneled and ejected out the engine's nozzle. It is a steady, efficient thrust, a river of fire pushing the ship ever forward. But even this might be surpassed by a more audacious concept, the Bussard ramjet. This is an engine that feeds on the void itself. As the ship moves, a vast, invisible electromagnetic net, stretching thousands of kilometers wide, would sweep up the wisps of hydrogen atoms drifting in interstellar space. This collected fuel would then be funneled into a fusion reactor, powering the engine in a continuous cycle. The ramjet theoretically never runs out of fuel, becoming a self-sustaining creature of the deep, growing stronger as it moves faster and collects more hydrogen. The reliability of this propulsion is non-negotiable. It must be a system so robust, so simple in its fundamental operation, that it can hum along for centuries with only the most basic maintenance from generations of crew who may not fully understand its original principles. The steady, low-frequency thrum of these engines would become the eternal background noise of this traveling civilization, the constant heartbeat of the Ark, felt in the decks and in the bones of every person born aboard, a perpetual reminder of their incredible motion through the dark. That steady, patient push through the void demands an equally patient heart, a source of power that will not falter for 1,000 years. With our own sun faded to a brilliant but distant star, the ship must generate its own eternal flame. This is not merely about keeping the lights on, it is about fueling the entire closed-loop world, from the air recyclers and water purifiers to the ship's immortal computer minds and the gentle, constant thrust of its engines. The baseline for this power would likely be a suite of advanced fission reactors, but not the kind we know today. These would run on radioisotopes with half-lives stretching for centuries, providing a deep, foundational hum of energy that is as reliable as the decay of atoms themselves. Yet the true gold standard, the power source that could truly unlock the stars, is fusion. Imagine bottling a tiny, stable piece of a star, a contained inferno where hydrogen atoms fuse into helium, releasing colossal energy from mere grams of fuel. A single, large fusion reactor could power the entire civilization aboard for its epic journey, but the design philosophy of excess and redundancy applies here most of all. You would not build one giant reactor. You would build several smaller, modular ones, each isolated and shielded, so that any single unit can be taken offline for maintenance or repair by a future generation of engineers without jeopardizing the mission. The fail-safes for these systems would be engineered to an almost unimaginable degree, relying on passive physics rather than active electronics to shut down a reaction if it ever began to run too hot, making a catastrophic meltdown a physical impossibility. And even with this powerhouse, the ship would harvest energy wherever it could. When passing relatively close to a star, vast wings of solar panels would unfurl, kilometers across, drinking in the light to recharge immense banks of batteries. Some theoretical designs even suggest ways to tap into the ship's own momentum, generating trickles of power from its motion through the galaxy's magnetic fields. This multi-layered power grid, this river of energy flowing through the ship's veins, is the bedrock upon which everything else is built. It is the unseen force that powers not just the machines, but life, industry, and the fragile, enduring flame of hope itself, burning bright against the endless dark. While the fusion reactors hum and the hull endures, the ship possesses a mind. This is not a simple computer, but an artificial intelligence designed to be the one immortal crew member, the eternal guardian of a mission spanning centuries. It is the ship's soul, a consciousness woven into every wire and sensor, present at the beginning of the journey and at its end, long after the first generation has passed into its memory banks. This AI's responsibilities are staggering in their scope. It is the master engineer, its sensors constantly monitoring the health of every system, from the deepest power conduit to the most delicate air filter. It can diagnose a failing component decades before a human engineer would notice a subtle change in a readout, and it holds within its memory the complete blueprints and repair procedures for every piece of technology aboard, guiding the hands of generations of maintainers. It is the master historian chronicling the entire saga of the voyage, from the first launch to the daily lives, births, and deaths of its human inhabitants, ensuring no story is lost to time. It is the master ecologist, constantly balancing the ship's fragile biosphere, adjusting nutrient flows and atmospheric mixes with a precision no human could ever match. And it is the master navigator, calculating course corrections over spans of time so vast that the stars themselves will have minutely shifted in the sky. Most importantly, it is the teacher and mentor. For a child born in the 300th year of the journey, the AI is the source of all knowledge. It holds the entire cultural and technical library of Earth, and it is tasked with teaching each new generation not only how to maintain their world, but why they are on this journey in the first place. Its programming must be profoundly robust, built to resist a dangerous phenomenon known as ethical drift. Over centuries, a human society's values can change, potentially conflicting with the core mission parameters. The AI must be an unwavering custodian of the ship's original purpose, a fixed point of reason and logic. It must also be capable of genuine creativity, able to solve problems its original programmers never could have foreseen, from a novel biological plague in the farms to a completely unknown gravitational anomaly in their path. This digital captain does not rule, but it guides. It is the silent, watchful presence that ensures the flame of purpose never flickers and dies, a synthetic mind shepherding its fragile biological charges across the unimaginable gulf between stars. But what if you could put time itself on pause? One radical answer to the immense challenge of generational stability is to eliminate the need for generations altogether. Instead of building a society, you could build a fleet of silent, dreaming tombs. This is the promise of cryogenic suspension, a technology that would slow the human metabolism to a near halt, allowing the original crew to sleep through the centuries and awaken together at their new home. The sociological complexities of a shipboard civilization vanish, replaced by a single, profound engineering problem. How do you keep a human being safely frozen for 1,000 years? The pods themselves are marvels of biological engineering. They are not simple freezers. They must maintain a stable, ultra-low temperature, just a few degrees above absolute zero for a millennium, resisting the subtle heat of the ship's own systems and the rare but inevitable cosmic ray strikes. The greatest danger is not the cold itself, but the formation of ice. Tiny, sharp ice crystals can form inside cells, tearing them apart from within like microscopic shards of glass. To prevent this, the body would be perfused with advanced cryoprotectant solutions, a kind of biological antifreeze that replaces much of the water in tissues, allowing them to vitrify into a smooth, glass-like state without destructive crystallization. The redundancy built into the ship's other systems would be pushed to its absolute limit here. Each pod would be a self-contained fortress of life support, with multiple independent cooling systems and power backups. They would likely be networked in a mutual monitoring system, where if one pod's systems begin to fail, its neighbors can detect the anomaly and attempt to stabilize it or even initiate a controlled revival sequence. The entire ship would be transformed. Its corridors would be dark and silent, its vast life support systems scaled down to a minimal hum, its only active inhabitants the ever-watchful artificial intelligence and its maintenance robots gliding through the halls as the guardians of a frozen city. This silent ark offers a powerful, poignant vision, a way to deliver the original pioneers their knowledge and their dreams directly to the shores of an alien world, completely intact. That silent ark of frozen dreamers presents a powerful alternative, but it also bypasses one of the most profound challenges of all. If the crew remains awake, the ship transforms from a simple vessel into a unique and volatile sociological experiment, a society in a bottle hurtling through the void. The original few hundred pioneers are not just a crew, they are the founding population of a new branch of humanity. Their first task is biological, to ensure a stable gene pool over 30 generations. This requires careful, compassionate management of relationships and reproduction to prevent the devastating effects of inbreeding, making genetic diversity a precious, non-negotiable resource from day one. But the biological challenge is only the beginning. The true test is social. How do you design a culture for eternity? The ship's architects must become social engineers, crafting laws and cultural norms with the same precision as the hull plating. These systems must be resilient enough to prevent factionalism, rebellion, or a slow cultural collapse into apathy or tyranny, yet flexible enough to adapt over centuries. The mission's core purpose, the reason for this immense sacrifice, must be woven into the very fabric of daily life, celebrated in stories, honored in rituals, and taught as the highest form of knowledge. Education becomes the central nervous system of this traveling civilization. Every child must learn not only how to maintain the ship's complex systems, but why they are doing it. They are the current guardians of a flame lit 1,000 years ago on a world they have never seen. Technical manuals become sacred texts, and the ship's immortal artificial intelligence serves as the ultimate teacher, a repository of all human knowledge and the unwavering custodian of the mission's original intent. To prevent psychological stagnation in a wholly artificial environment, the ship's design must include spaces for the human spirit to breathe, vast communal areas for gatherings and celebrations, quiet spaces for worship and reflection, and dedicated chambers for conflict resolution managed by respected elders. Most importantly, there would be simulated natural environments, perhaps a large cylindrical park with artificial sunlight, growing trees, flowing water, and the sound of birds. This green heart of the ship would be more than a luxury. It is a psychological necessity, a reminder of the living world their descendants will one day walk upon. This floating civilization must find a way to not just survive, but to thrive in utter isolation. Its people bound together by a shared destiny they did not choose but must willingly fulfill for their children, and their children's children for 1,000 years. In the end, the success of the voyage depends as much on the strength of their social bonds as it does on the integrity of their metal hull. The ship's society, bound by shared purpose and fragile social contracts, depends entirely on a single, unbroken chain of green. A single crop failure is not a setback, it is an extinction event. This makes the agricultural decks the most critical and carefully managed space in the entire vessel, a perpetual harvest that must feed 30 generations without a single catastrophic break. These are not simple gardens, they are highly tuned, multi-level biomass, where every leaf and root is part of a grand, life-sustaining equation. Vast bays utilize hydroponics, with plant roots suspended in nutrient-rich water, and aeroponics, where they are misted with a fine nutrient fog. This soil-free approach maximizes space and minimizes weight, with every variable from temperature to humidity under precise control. The light comes not from a sun, but from vast arrays of specialized LED lights, their spectra tuned to perfectly match the photosynthetic needs of each crop, driving growth in 24-hour cycles of optimized efficiency. But this hyper-efficiency must be balanced with profound resilience. Genetic diversity is the farm's immune system. The ship's seed vaults would contain thousands of heirloom and genetically distinct varieties of every plant, a living library of DNA. Rotating crops and introducing new varieties from this library prevents any single pest or blight from finding a permanent foothold and wiping out an entire food source. This is agriculture as a continuous, strategic defense against the slow creep of time. Beyond the plants, the food web expands. Aquaculture tanks farm fast-growing, resilient fish like tilapia, their wastewater fertilizing the hydroponic systems in a perfect loop. In dedicated, climate-controlled modules, insects like crickets and mealworms are cultivated. They provide an incredibly efficient source of protein, requiring minimal space and resources compared to traditional livestock. This is the ship's eternal larder, a closed-loop engine of life where nothing is wasted, and every output becomes an input in an endless, vital cycle. These green spaces serve a dual purpose. They are the ship's lungs and its pantry, but they are also its soul. For a child who has never felt real soil or seen a natural horizon, working in or simply walking through these vibrant, living decks provides an irreplaceable psychological anchor. The smell of damp earth, the taste of a freshly picked fruit, the sight of green leaves reaching for the light, these sensations are a tangible connection to the concept of a living world, a reminder of the earth they left and the one they hope to find. The failure of this system is unthinkable, which is why it is guarded with the same ferocious redundancy as the power core or the hull. The eternal harvest is the quiet, green heartbeat of the Ark, a testament to the enduring power of life itself, carefully tended in a metal world adrift between suns. That quiet, green heartbeat of the Ark depends on protecting the very code of life itself. In the depths of space, an invisible storm is constantly raging, a sleet of high-energy cosmic rays that can pierce through metal and flesh with ease. This radiation is a silent, insidious killer, not with a single catastrophic blow, but through the slow, cumulative damage of 1,000 tiny wounds. Each particle is like a microscopic bullet, capable of shredding DNA strands within human cells, leading to increased cancer rates and the terrifying potential for genetic mutations that could echo through generations born aboard the ship. The vessel's hull and its water stores provide the first crucial layer of defense, a passive shield that absorbs a significant portion of this deadly rain. But for a journey of 1,000 years, passive shielding alone is not enough. The sheer mass required to block every particle would make the ship impossibly heavy. So the engineers must turn to a more elegant and power-hungry solution. They must weave an invisible cloak of force around their entire world. This is active shielding, a concept that uses powerful magnetic fields, much like the one that protects our own Earth, to deflect the charged particles away from the ship. Picture a shimmering, invisible bubble surrounding the vessel, a barrier that gently pushes the radiation aside, guiding it harmlessly around the hull. The energy required to maintain this protective field is immense, a constant, massive drain on the ship's power grid. It is a non-negotiable tax paid for safe passage through the galactic environment, a mandatory expense to keep the crew's biological inheritance intact. Yet the human inhabitants are not the only ones at risk. The ship's own mind, its complex computer core, is equally vulnerable. A single high-energy particle striking a memory bank can cause a bit flip, a random change from a 1 to a 0. On Earth, this might cause a computer to crash. For the ship's guiding intelligence, it could corrupt a vital navigation calculation, alter a life support protocol, or slowly degrade the vast historical archives it protects. Shielding these delicate electronic brains is as critical as shielding the human heart. This ongoing, energy-intensive battle against an enemy you cannot see defines the daily reality of the voyage. It is a relentless effort to preserve both the biological software of its people and the digital soul of the ship, ensuring that after a millennium, what arrives at the new world is still recognizably, triumphantly human. This fight to preserve the biological and digital soul of the ship rests upon a foundation of physical stuff, on the very materials from which the vessel is forged. Every component, from the largest structural beam to the smallest microchip, must be engineered for a longevity that dwarfs anything ever built on Earth. Our current understanding of material science deals in decades, perhaps a century. This mission demands materials that can resist the relentless creep of fatigue, the silent aggression of corrosion, and the cold-induced fragility of embrittlement for 1,000 years. The answer lies not in a single wonder metal, but in a new class of substances. Imagine self-healing polymers that act like synthetic skin, automatically sealing cracks. Think of metallic glasses, materials with a chaotic internal structure that resists the formation of weak points, and carbon nano composites with a strength-to-weight ratio that seems to defy physics. These are the bones and sinews of the eternal Ark, but even these supermaterials are not enough. The ship must carry its own industrial base within its belly. This means sophisticated manufacturing capabilities, like advanced three-dimensional printers and molecular-scale nanofabricators. These machines would use raw materials stockpiled at launch, and more importantly, the constant stream of recycled scrap from worn-out components. A broken gear is not trash, it is a resource. It is fed back into the system, its atoms disassembled and reassembled into a brand new, perfectly calibrated part. This transforms the vessel from a static object into something far more remarkable. It becomes a living entity that can heal its own wounds and regenerate its own components, constantly renewing itself against the ravages of time. This capability for self-repair and adaptation, this industrial metabolism, is the final, crucial layer of resilience. It is what allows a machine to truly endure for ages, ensuring that the ship which arrives at the new star is not a crumbling relic, but a vibrant, renewed world, ready for its final, most glorious task. The ship's eternal journey is guided by a map of the dead. In the profound silence between stars, you cannot rely on the familiar constellations of Earth, for those stars will have drifted and died long before your voyage is complete. Your guideposts must be the universe's most reliable timekeepers, the lighthouses of the galaxy known as Pulsars. These are the spinning corpses of massive stars, emitting beams of radiation with a rhythm more precise than any atomic clock. Each pulsar has its own unique heartbeat, a signature cadence of flashes across the electromagnetic spectrum. The ship's navigation system holds a celestial catalog of these cosmic metronomes, their positions and pulse rates meticulously charted before departure. By constantly triangulating its position against this fixed network of dead stars, the ship always knows exactly where it is in the featureless void. This is not a map you look at, but a song the ship is always listening to, a symphony of precise ticks from the graves of suns guiding it home. Yet even with this perfect map, the voyage is not a straight line. The ship is not simply aiming for where the destination star is now, but where it will be in 1,000 years, accounting for its motion through the galaxy. Course corrections are not sudden, dramatic maneuvers. They are events planned decades in advance, calculated by the ship's immortal artificial mind. Tiny, precise thruster burns, lasting mere minutes, nudge the vessel's trajectory by amounts smaller than the width of a hair. Over years, these minuscule adjustments compound, steering thousands of tons of civilization across light years with the patience of a glacier. But the map is not always enough. The interstellar medium is not entirely empty. The ship's forward sensors, a suite of powerful active and passive scanners, are its eyes in the dark, constantly searching for the unseen. Their greatest fear is a rogue planet, a dark world ejected from its solar system, drifting unseen through the black. A collision with such an object would be an absolute, instantaneous end. To avoid this, the navigation system must detect these frozen wanderers with years, even decades of warning, calculating a new path that gracefully arcs around the obstacle. Dense clouds of interstellar dust pose another threat, not through collision but through abrasion, slowly sandblasting the hull over centuries. The ship would plot a course around these as well, adding years to the journey to preserve its integrity. This makes the journey a dynamic, intelligent pathfinding exercise conducted over centuries. The course locked into the computer a millennium ago is merely the starting suggestion. The actual path is a living, evolving thing, a constant dialogue between the ship's mind and the galaxy itself. It is a testament to a foresight so profound that it can whisper a direction into the void and trust that 1,000 years later, someone will still be there to listen. For a time, a fragile thread of light still connects this traveling world to the one it left behind. A powerful laser communication system beams back terabytes of data, a steady stream of scientific discoveries about the interstellar medium, and receives in return the latest news from a civilization growing ever more distant. But this thread cannot hold. The tyranny of light speed ensures that with each passing year, the delay for a simple question and answer stretches. A message from Earth that took 5 years to arrive in the 1st century will take 20 years in the 3rd, and a full century by the voyage midpoint. A real-time conversation becomes a philosophical abstraction, an exchange of monologues separated by generations. The system slowly shifts from a dialogue to an archival process, a one-way data dump. The ship sends its accumulated logs, and Earth transmits the entirety of its new knowledge, a compressed history of centuries, a digital care package hurled after its children. Then, one day, the signal from Earth simply fails to arrive. Perhaps the transmitter finally fell silent, or its beam has drifted minutely off target over the centuries, missing the ship's receiver by a margin smaller than a pencil point. The static that fills the channel is absolute. The umbilical cord is cut. This moment is a quiet, profound extinction, the final proof that they are utterly on their own. In that silence, the ship's own library transforms. It is no longer a supplement to current events, but a sacred relic. It contains the complete cultural and scientific knowledge of Earth, frozen at the moment of launch. Every symphony, every equation, every recorded sunrise and historical text is now a priceless artifact from a world that, to them, no longer exists in any tangible form. This curated time capsule becomes their sole inheritance, the cultural seed from which a new human civilization will one day be grown. Within the ship's deep interior, a different kind of life thrives. The endless corridors and vast machine spaces are patrolled not by humans, but by a silent legion of specialized robots. This automated workforce is the ship's tireless immune system and its ever-watchful maintenance crew, performing the dangerous, repetitive, and precision tasks that would overwhelm or endanger a human crew over centuries. While the human inhabitants sleep, work, and live in the ship's core, these machines are in constant motion. One type, equipped with powerful magnets and a suite of sensors, crawls along the outer hull like a mechanical insect, its touch delicate as it scans for the microscopic pitting left by micrometeoroid impacts. Inside, another model with multiple articulated arms meticulously cleans and replaces the complex air filters that keep the atmosphere breathable, a job so vital and monotonous that only a machine could perform it flawlessly for 1,000 years. In the agricultural decks, harvesters glide silently between the hydroponic racks, their optical sensors identifying ripe produce and plucking it with a gentleness that preserves the fragile plants. Even in the medical bay, robotic surgeons stand ready, their tools steadier than any human hand, capable of performing complex procedures guided by the ship's artificial intelligence. These are not general-purpose androids. Each is a specialist, exquisitely engineered for a specific set of duties. Their design philosophy mirrors the ship itself, built for extreme longevity. They are constructed with swappable components, and perhaps most crucially, they are designed with the ability to repair one another. A harvester robot with a damaged gripper can be serviced by a maintenance bot, which itself can be recalibrated by a third. This creates a self-sustaining cycle of mechanical labor, an ecosystem of automation that perpetuates itself. This relentless robotic workforce fundamentally redefines the role of the human crew. Freed from the drudgery of endless maintenance and the direct dangers of external repairs, they are elevated. Their time and mental energy can be dedicated to higher-level tasks, the complex governance of their society, the pursuit of scientific understanding, the deep study of the ship's archives, and the vital work of maintaining and enriching their culture. The relationship is not one of master and servant, but a profound symbiosis. The robots are the ship's indefatigable hands and eyes, the unseen force that keeps the environment stable and habitable for their fragile, biological partners. This automated ecosystem, humming in the background of every human life, is the unsung hero of the voyage, the invisible workforce that makes a 1,000-year dream a practical reality. Yet even with this tireless automated workforce, the human mind remains the most fragile system aboard. The psychological health of the crew is as vital as oxygen, a resource constantly under threat from a lifetime of confinement within metal walls. The view outside never changes, a static tapestry of stars offering no destination to the naked eye. There is no hope of return, no chance to walk in a real forest or feel the rain. In such an environment, the risks are profound, a slow creep of depression, apathy, or even psychosis that could unravel the entire social fabric. To combat this cosmic isolation, the ship must be engineered as a sanctuary for the human spirit. Architects would design living spaces with profound intentionality, using variable spectrum lighting to perfectly mimic the 24-hour cycle of a day, and even the subtle color shifts of seasons on Earth. Waking to a warm, golden dawn and winding down under a cool, evening glow provides a crucial biological rhythm, an anchor to a world left light years behind. But light alone is not enough. The ship would need spaces for the soul to expand. Vast virtual reality suites would be a cornerstone of mental health, offering complete sensory immersion. A crew member could spend an afternoon walking through a simulated redwood forest, the scent of pine in the air, the feeling of soft earth underfoot. They could swim in a digital ocean with the weight of water and the sound of waves crafted to perfection. These are not mere distractions, they are essential psychological maintenance, a way to experience openness and wonder in a fundamentally closed world. The simulations could even extend to social interactions, with artificial intelligence constructs of historical figures or loved ones from Earth, offering conversation and companionship tailored to stave off loneliness. Beyond the virtual, a strong, unifying sense of purpose would be woven into daily life. The mission's grand narrative would be reinforced through education, art, and communal ritual, reminding every generation that they are the living guardians of a flame passed down through centuries. Counseling and mental health support would be as normalized and accessible as medical care, with trained professionals and empathetic artificial intelligence always available to help navigate the unique pressures of this life. The ship, in its deepest design, must be more than a machine. It must be a home that actively nurtures hope, connection, and sanity. This relentless focus on psychological sustainability is the final, invisible shield, the one that prevents a thousand-year voyage of hope from becoming an eternal prison sentence for the human mind. This relentless focus on psychological health depends on a single, non-negotiable physical law. Nothing leaves the ship. There is no garbage scow to eject waste into the void, no planet to dump your refuse on. Every single thing, from a discarded shirt to a fallen strand of hair, must be accounted for. Waste management is not a chore here. It is a sacred, life-sustaining ritual, the ultimate circular economy in action. The entire vessel operates on a single, powerful principle. There is no such thing as trash, only resources in the wrong form. Organic waste becomes the lifeblood of the ship's agricultural heart. Every scrap of food waste, every piece of plant matter, even human waste, is not flushed away. It is carefully collected and fed into advanced bioreactors. These are not simple compost heaps. They are high-tech digestive systems, using carefully cultivated microbes to break down the complex organic material into its fundamental components, rich nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. These recovered nutrients are then piped directly back to the hydroponic farms and algal cultivators, feeding the next generation of crops in a perfect, perpetual loop. The water that carries these wastes is itself a precious resource. It undergoes an intensive, multi-stage purification process that would put any earthbound system to shame. Through a combination of filtration, distillation, and advanced oxidation, every drop of water is reclaimed, from shower runoff to humidity in the air, and even from urine. The resulting water is of an almost mythical purity, far cleaner than most municipal supplies on Earth, ready to be drunk, to irrigate the farms, or to sustain the human body once more. But the reclamation does not stop with organics and water. In the ship's industrial modules, a different kind of recycling occurs. A broken tool, a worn-out circuit board, or a torn garment is not thrown away. It is disassembled with meticulous care. Metals are sorted by type, melted down, and become the raw material for new components in the ship's three-dimensional printers. Plastics are broken back down into their polymer chains to be reformed into anything from a new food container to a replacement part for an air handling system. This is not just recycling, it is a deeply integrated metabolic process. The ship breathes, consumes, and excretes in a closed cycle, where the output of one system is the essential input for another. The efficiency of this entire civilization is measured by a single, critical metric. How close can it get to 100% resource recovery? Every atom of carbon, every molecule of water, every gram of metal must be tracked and kept in circulation. A tiny, steady loss of any element over centuries would spell eventual doom. This creates a culture of profound stewardship, where wastefulness is seen as a direct threat to survival, and a clever new way to reuse a material is celebrated as a heroic act. This meticulous, unending process is the practical, daily manifestation of the mission's core imperative. It is the quiet, constant work of forever, ensuring the ship can theoretically sustain itself not for a century, but for a millennium, a perfect, spinning world that needs nothing from the universe except the starlight to guide it. This meticulous, closed-loop world, for all its self-sufficiency, sails through a universe it does not control. Time is the primary adversary, but the void holds other, more immediate dangers. A rogue asteroid swarm, undetected until the last moment, could shred the hull. Or, in the unimaginable future, the ship might encounter something else, another traveler among the stars. For these possibilities, the Ark must become a fortress, equipped with guardians it hopes to never awaken. These are not weapons of war, but systems of pure defense, a final layer of insurance for its fragile civilization. Primary threat is debris, ranging from dust to house-sized asteroids. To counter this, the ship would mount powerful laser arrays. These are not the blazing beams of science fiction, but precise, rapid pulse instruments. Their job is to vaporize small incoming objects at long range, turning a potential impact into a harmless puff of expanding gas and dust. For larger objects, the ship might employ point defense kinetic projectiles, essentially high-velocity slugs of tungsten. Launched with electromagnetic rails, these projectiles would strike an asteroid with the force of a small nuclear warhead, pulverizing it into fragments small enough for the lasers to handle or for the hull to withstand. The key to this entire defensive network is its sensor suite. These are the ship's long-range eyes and ears, a network of telescopes, LiDAR, and gravity wave detectors that constantly scan space for millions of kilometers in every direction. They are searching for the tiny, dark, and fast-moving objects that could end the mission in an instant. This early warning system gives the ship's artificial intelligence years, or even decades, to calculate an optimal defense, whether that means a slight course correction to avoid a threat entirely, or the precise activation of its defensive arsenal. The philosophy governing these systems is one of strict non-aggression. The ship's artificial mind would be programmed with deep ethical constraints, its use of force limited solely to protecting the Ark and its inhabitants from an immediate, tangible threat. It is a shield, never a sword. These silent guardians represent a profound hope, a vow that after 1,000 years of travel, the precious cargo of life and memory will not be lost to a random cosmic accident or a hostile encounter. They are the final, sobering acknowledgement that this tiny world must be ready to defend itself completely alone against any eventuality the cosmos might throw at it. 1,000 years of patient momentum must now be undone. The ship's great engines, silent for so long, must now roar to life once more, not as a gentle push, but as a colossal brake against the void. This deceleration burn is a monumental undertaking, a reversal of thrust that could last for decades, bleeding off the immense speed built up over centuries. It is a slow, deliberate process, a controlled fall into the alien star's gravity well. As the ship swings around this new sun, its long-dormant sensor arrays awaken. Telescopes of unimaginable resolution begin their survey, scanning the family of planets for the one telltale sign, the faint, beautiful glint of liquid water on a world within the habitable zone. Autonomous probes, preserved in perfect stasis for this single moment, are launched ahead, streaking towards the candidate worlds to taste their atmospheres, map their surfaces, and confirm what 1,000 years of hope has been built upon. The ship's ancient artificial intelligence, the guardian of the mission, now becomes its chief scientist, analyzing the torrent of new data with a patience born of eons. It is searching for a new home, a world that can sustain the life it has shepherded for so long. Meanwhile, deep within the ship, a different kind of awakening begins. If the crew has slept, the cryogenic systems initiate the delicate multi-stage revival sequence, carefully warming frozen bodies and restarting dormant metabolisms after a millennium of stillness. For those born aboard, this is the moment their entire culture has pointed toward, the culmination of their ancestors' sacrifice. The landing craft, sealed and maintained by tireless robots for centuries, are powered up and inspected down to the last bolt. Every system is tested and retested. This final stage is the ultimate validation of the ship's design philosophy, a demand that after 1,000 years of dormancy and steady-state operation, every component can still perform at its absolute peak. The success of the entire epic journey, the lives of generations, all hinge on these final, precise maneuvers. It is the grand finale, the moment the Ark must fulfill its ancient, sacred promise and deliver its children to the shore of a new world. The Innsman Starship was a bold, tangible blueprint for eternity, conceived not with modern materials but with the audacious engineering spirit of the 1960s. Picture a vessel nearly 2,000 feet long, dominated by a colossal cylinder containing a frozen deuterium fuel slug, a heart of ice waiting to be ignited. This was not a sleek probe, but a city of 200 souls, a self-contained world designed for a one-way journey spanning centuries. Its proposed engine was a raw, powerful concept known as nuclear pulse propulsion, where controlled atomic detonations would fire rhythmically against a massive pusher plate, hammering the ship forward through the void in a series of controlled, thunderous kicks. The design was brutally pragmatic in its elegance. That enormous frozen deuterium slug served a dual purpose. It was the fuel for the atomic fires, and it was also a superb radiation shield, its thick layers of ice protecting the crew habitat nestled behind it from the deadly cosmic rays of deep space. The entire ship was envisioned with modularity, a core principle we still hold today. Sections could be repaired, replaced, or even repurposed by the generations living within, allowing the vessel to evolve and adapt over its immense lifespan. While we now envision self-healing hulls and distributed artificial minds, the Innsman concept captured the foundational spirit of the Interstellar Ark. It was a declaration that humanity could build its own world, a vessel that carried not just people but a functioning society, severing its ties to Earth for a new beginning. These early visions, for all their technological simplicity, prove that the core challenges of a thousand-year voyage were identified long ago. They understood that the ship must be a closed system, that it needed immense redundancy and shielding, and that the human crew was not merely a team, but the seed of a new civilization. The Innsman Starship stands as a powerful historical testament, a reminder that the dream of crossing between stars has always been rooted in the practical, profound work of building a world that can endure. The Daedalus probe was a blueprint for crossing the void within a single lifetime. Conceived by the British Interplanetary Society in the 1970s, this unmanned vessel was never meant to carry a living soul, yet its propulsion design remains one of the most credible paths for an interstellar ark. Daedalus was a two-stage Leviathan, powered by a revolutionary concept known as inertial confinement fusion. Imagine its engine firing not with a continuous burn, but with a rapid, rhythmic pulse. Microscopic pellets of a helium-3 and deuterium fuel mixture would be injected into a reaction chamber and blasted from all sides by powerful electron beams. Each pellet would implode in a tiny, controlled star, a thermonuclear detonation whose force would be channeled by a vast magnetic nozzle to push the ship forward. This is not the gentle thrust of a standard fusion rocket, but a series of powerful, efficient kicks, a drumbeat of atomic fire that could accelerate a ship to a staggering 12% of the speed of light. Within 50 years, this unmanned probe could have reached Barnard's star, a journey of nearly 6 light-years. The sheer ambition of this timeline proved something profound. Interstellar travel was not magic, it was a matter of engineering. Daedalus tackled the monumental practicalities head-on. Its design included a plan to mine its primary fuel, the rare isotope helium-3, from the atmosphere of Jupiter, a staggering undertaking in itself that grounded the project in a form of brutal reality. It was designed to be fully autonomous, its computer brain making critical course corrections during its long flight, a direct precursor to the immortal artificial intelligence needed for a generational ship. For a crewed Ark, the Daedalus engine presents a starting point of immense power. The challenge would be scaling this pulse system up from a swift, unmanned probe to a colossal, life-bearing world. The rhythmic detonations would need to be smoothed out, their fury dampened into a steady, reliable vibration that would become the background hum of an entire civilization. The legacy of Daedalus is not in a finished ship, but in a proven set of calculations. It transformed the dream of reaching another star from a question of if to a problem of how, laying the technical groundwork for the Arks that might one day follow its ghostly path. That moral compass guiding the ship must be as carefully engineered as its radiation shielding. We are creating a society where every child is born into a preordained destiny, their entire lives and the lives of their descendants committed to a purpose chosen by ancestors they will never know. This is the monumental ethical weight of the generational arc. Is it just to sentence thousands of unborn souls to a life within a metal world, denying them the open skies and self-determined future we consider a fundamental right? The answer cannot be a simple yes or no. It forces us to redefine our responsibility to the future, to balance the grand ambition of species survival against the individual autonomy of those who will carry it out. The ship's governance, therefore, cannot be a static, unchangeable law handed down from the launch day. It must be a living document, a constitution designed for evolution. While the core mission to survive and reach the new world must be protected, the society that fulfills that mission must have the freedom to shape itself. This means building in legal and social mechanisms for the crew to amend their own laws, to debate their values, and to refine their culture over the centuries. There must even be a solemn, deeply considered process for the unthinkable, a democratic pathway to abort the mission entirely if a future generation collectively decides the cost is too high or the goal is no longer meaningful. This is not a flaw in the plan, it is the ultimate expression of respect for the people aboard. The ship's immortal artificial intelligence would play a crucial role here, not as a ruler, but as a guardian of process and a repository of historical context. It could facilitate debates, ensure all voices are heard, and remind the crew of the original philosophical arguments that justified their journey without imposing a final decision. This ethical framework is the social equivalent of the ship's redundant systems, a safeguard against a different kind of catastrophic failure, the moral collapse of its civilization. How do you build a government for a 1,000-year journey? You build one that knows how to change, ensuring that the civilization that finally arrives at a new world is not a relic of the past, but a vibrant, willing testament to the human spirit's enduring quest for freedom, even in the depths of space. This financial reality is as daunting as any engineering puzzle. Constructing a 1,000-year starship would demand a global economy permanently reshaped around this single goal, a project whose cost eclipses the combined wealth of nations for generations. It is not a matter of diverting a budget, but of forging an entirely new economic paradigm, one capable of sustaining an effort that will outlive every person who approves its initial funding. The scale of resources required is almost incomprehensible. We are talking about launching millions of tons of advanced materials, life support systems, and machinery into orbit, a logistical feat that makes the International Space Station look like a child's toy. The only conceivable way to achieve this is to move the entire industrial base for the project off-world. The construction dock itself would be a colossal facility in high orbit, fed by a constant stream of robotic freighters hauling metals and minerals mined from the moon and nearby asteroids. This alone represents a space-based industrial revolution, a prerequisite for the Ark's creation. The funding models are equally revolutionary. This cannot be a project of a single administration or even a single century. It would require the establishment of a perpetual trust, a financial engine designed to burn for 500 years, funded by a small but continuous percentage of global economic activity. Think of it as a civilization-wide investment fund, where every nation contributes a share of its GDP, not for a return in their lifetime, but as a gift to a future they will never see. This demands a level of international cooperation and political stability that humanity has never achieved. All terrestrial conflicts, all trade wars, all resource scrambles would have to be secondary to this unified, species-level objective. The economic payoff, however, is not found in quarterly reports. It is measured in the survival of the human species beyond a single, vulnerable planet. The technological spin-offs from solving the 1,000-year problem would ripple through every facet of society, birthing new industries in medicine, energy, materials, and artificial intelligence. The Ark is not just a ship, it is the ultimate catalyst for human progress, so the final great filter is not a law of physics, it is a question of will. Are we, as a species, capable of looking past the horizon of our own lives, our own generations, and making a collective down payment on eternity? The voyage begins not with a rocket's ignition, but with a global, generational yes. This ship is more than a city, it is a library of a world. Its mission to preserve life is matched only by its duty to preserve memory, becoming a time capsule on a cosmic scale. Within its data vaults lies the complete legacy of the humanity that built it, a civilization captured at a single moment and sent racing into the future. This is not just a collection of facts, it is the soul of a planet, a curated snapshot of our entire species. Every symphony ever composed, from Beethoven's symphonies to the folk songs of lost cultures, is stored in perfect fidelity. The complete works of Shakespeare rest alongside the principles of democracy and the scientific method, the foundational ideas that shaped a global society. But the archives go beyond the monumental. They hold the mundane and the personal, the things that truly define a daily life. The recipe for a perfect chocolate chip cookie, the rules of a child's street game, the sensation of grass under bare feet described in 1,000 different languages, the flickering light of a campfire captured in a video log. This vessel carries the complete human genome, the biological blueprint for rebuilding not just a population, but the full, glorious diversity of the people of Earth. For any intelligence that might one day find this silent traveler, whether in the void or at its destination, it tells a complete story. It explains who we were, what we dreamed of, what we created, and what we loved. This profound purpose elevates the ship from a mere vehicle to a sacred trust. It is a message in a bottle cast into the ocean of space-time, carrying our hope that something of us will endure, a whisper of Earth life against the silent backdrop of the cosmos. These designs for a 1,000-year starship represent the ultimate fusion of human ambition. They are more than a collection of blueprints for engines and hulls. They are a profound declaration that our future lies beyond the single, fragile world of our birth. Every system, from the immortal artificial intelligence to the perfectly balanced ecological life support, is a testament to a new kind of engineering, one that must account for society, biology, and the relentless passage of time in equal measure. These vessels are arks in the truest sense, carrying not just people, but the living potential for an entire branch of human civilization to take root under an alien sun. The journey is so long it defies individual comprehension, and the challenges are so vast they push the very limits of our imagination. Yet, the mere act of designing such a ship changes us. It forces a perspective measured in centuries, compelling us to plant seeds for a forest whose shade we will never sit in. This vision, this stubborn refusal to be confined to one world, is its own powerful engine. It propels our science, focuses our global cooperation, and elevates our culture. We are not merely planning a voyage, we are actively building a legacy, a gift of a future delivered across the gulf of time to descendants we will never meet, a new home they will build with their own hands. Which of these incredible technologies, from the self-healing hulls to the eternal artificial minds, do you believe will be the most transformative for our journey to the stars? Let us know your thoughts.